Unsyndicated presents Off the Air with Sean Baligian.
What is up? So glad you could join us on a Sunday night. He, of course, is Blake from 760 WJR, Mitch Album Show, and Sports Rap. I'm Sean Baligian. Did you catch your breath yet? It was one of those weekends, man. Honestly, it was one of those weekends. There was just so much going on. But I want to start with this, Blake. Bravo to Detroit. I mean, we are going to hit this hard and heavy. There's no doubt about that. But to put on the show that they did, I mean, I remember talking to you about this like 9-10 months ago and saying, I don't think that people understand what's coming to town. And I still don't think people really did understand what was coming to town. But to pull it off the way that this community did, I know they don't want a lot of love, but I have to start with Visit Detroit and our friends at Detroit Sports Commission for putting this together and pulling this off. Absolutely phenomenal, Blake. I mean, I just glowing reviews from all over the place, really.
The entire thing, from what I've heard and what I've read, went off basically completely without a hitch. I mean, people really seem to enjoy all of it. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, the fact that it got to capacity on Thursday and Friday, like Friday was at capacity, I know, like right before, but Thursday was hours before. Like the amount of people that were down there, and I mean, all the TV shots of how great the city looked, everything. It was incredible.
It really was.
Banner weekend for Detroit.
No doubt about that in so many different ways. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our friends from Detroit Sports Commission and Visit Detroit. And it was interesting because I was talking to some of the guys today, and I want to make sure that I get this absolutely right. No victory lap or backslapping, but thank you to the fans at the draft and everybody in Detroit who made this a great success, and sincere kudos to the DPD and City of Detroit, NFL teammates all the way, and of course on the ground workers as well. Because I mean, let's face it, Blake. I mean, when news came down, when we were hanging out at Batch, that they had already shut her down, you know, a couple hours before the draft, and then they had to turn around and shut her down again on Friday. I mean, phenomenal. But it just goes to show you what a fantastic event it was. They pulled it off, and it was, I mean, listen, a banner weekend for Detroit. It really was.
I mean, and this just sets us up for more big events.
Oh, absolutely.
I really, truly can't wait until our friends from the Detroit Sports Commission figure out a way to get the college football championship here, because that's all I want.
Oh, wouldn't that be
It has to happen now, right?
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, no doubt about that. That would be, I told you there aren't many things on my bucket list that I have to cross off yet. There really aren't. I've been very fortunate in that regard. That is one thing that I have to cross that off. That's something on my bucket list that I have to cross off. So that'd be cool. That'd be unbelievable. You know,
we would be nerding out so hard.
No doubt. Let me get some things on there. Boy, oh boy, you're absolutely right. Nick said, Preds, what a choke job.
Wait, they're losing? Or they lost?
It's tied now. It's tied now. What? Vancouver scored 2 goals in the last 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
Okay, real quick before we move on from hockey talk, that Cale Makar goal, that he's not fair.
No, he isn't. He is.
That was ridiculous.
And I'll tell you what,
walked the whole team.
All of a sudden they look right too. Like they looked so bad a couple days ago. My buddies and I were texting each other going, it's almost like they forgot to play defense. Some people can say it's the Jets going Jets, which is kind of a well-known thing. Kind of like Leafs going Leafs. More on that later. But no, they look right now. They do. And you got to remember, Vancouver's working on their 532nd goaltender right now. I mean, it's insane. Nick said Detroit put on such a perfect show in all aspects. 775,000, perfect weather, great draft too. Dave said, well done, Detroit. Ted said, that must have been crazy downtown. Ray said, you hear the saying, God must love football. You see the weather, perfect, especially the way Saturday morning started. No doubt about it. Hey, listen, I was almost taken aback at how people around here were suddenly getting love nationally for what great football fans we are. And I'm serious. I tweeted something out the other day. I was like, where have you been? This is a fan base here, okay? Blake, I'm going to use you as an example. That even though they've pushed aside so many young people like you because of their futility, and I hope you don't take that as disrespect, okay?
No.
I hope you know that because you're on board now, as we know. Lomas and I signed you to a contract. We dragged you kicking and screaming. You're on board. Even though they pushed so many fans away because of their futility, even though, and I know I told you this story, when my son was in 4th grade, a majority of kids at his school, 30 minutes away from Ford Field, made fun of him and his friend for being Lions fans. 30 minutes away from Ford Field. The Lions suck. Ha, ha, ha. We have constantly, and I mean constantly, supported this franchise. Almost 100%. There have been some times here or there where you saw the attendance numbers go down, you saw the interest go down, but not very often when you think of decades of futility, okay? Not too far away, you have an iconic college football stadium that same thing can be said for a vast majority of all our lifetimes, okay? A few moments where people, stop going, whether it be a little bit in the Rich Rod era, a little bit in the Hoke era, that almost continuously gets 110,000 people.
Yeah.
Where have you been? This is a football area. I don't care if you're the biggest hockey fan in the world, raise his hand. I don't care if you're the biggest baseball fan in the world. I don't care if you're the biggest basketball fan in the world. The fact of the matter is, this is a football mecca. When you think of all the prep teams that play around here, when you think of all the Division III, Division II, Division I teams that play in this general vicinity, when you think of the Detroit Lions and some teams not too far away, make no mistake about it, this is a football area. Period. End of story.
You're not going to get any argument out of me. That was a hell of a statement. Let's just end the show there. That was good.
Well, no, but it really blows my mind. It's like what where have you been, man? Like, haven't you been? If anything, when they should have gotten their love is through all the years that the ineptitude of this front office should have kicked us all away, and yet we all kept going down there. And it was funny because Blake, I always used to say this. I never, even when we did that silly march, I never told people not to go. I never told people to stay away. And you know what my reasoning was? I would be a hypocrite. I like going to the games. I wanted to take my son. I wanted to take my daughter. That franchise didn't deserve it back then. And there was a level of arrogance back then, to be honest with you. I mean, the fact that he was allowed to keep his job for almost 3 years after that is unbelievable to me. But we kept coming because we love our football around here. So I got to be honest with you. I wasn't really surprised. Heck, we talked about it. We were instructed not to throw out numbers, okay? We didn't want to throw out numbers. But I knew the 700,000 that Nashville had was in deep, deep trouble. There was no doubt about it. That's why
it was the perfect storm too of like the Lions being, nationally relevant, not just locally relevant right now.
And legitimately too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the best college football team in the country in the same neighborhood. So you got.
I knew you'd find a way to bring that up. I knew you'd find a way to bring that up.
I mean, it's factually
You're
correct.
not lying. I know that you're not lying. So there's
But
that.
it was the perfect storm. Because you have people that want to see Michigan players get drafted, and you have people that want to see what Detroit does.
Yep.
So it was perfect. Like for me, I was watching the draft, and I was watching rounds 4 through 7 because I wanted to see where Michigan players were getting drafted.
Yeah.
Like legitimate. And I am not a big like 4 through 7 guy. I'll watch the first 3 rounds, and then 4 through 7 I'll have it on in the background. But I was like watching intently because I wanted to see where those guys went. So
what did you think? Let's start with the Lions. I mean, when that run of Michigan players was unbelievable. It really was. It was like, another one, because it's the same thing. I was kind of laying on the couch half dead and everything, and I was going, okay, somewhere I know Blake's got himself a chubby right now, and deservedly so. But all jokes aside, what did you think about what Brad Holmes did? I like asking guys like you, and I hope you take that as a compliment. I like asking guys like you because sometimes I must admit I'm too close to the situation. And especially as I get older, I'm allowing more of my fandom to seep in. I think there's a fine line between what you have to quote unquote report and what you have to just talk about, like in regards to a draft as opposed to what you're seeing. But what did you think about Brad Holmes' decisions, including taking the Milky Waters of the draft?
I mean, I love Terrion Arnold. Like that dude's a dog. He's a corner that can actually tackle. He's physical. I think that it was a really, really good pick. No argument here whatsoever. Trading up, I think being aggressive and getting 2 DBs. Like the kid from Missouri, when we talked to Scott a couple weeks ago, that was a guy that Scott was saying they could take in the first round.
Yeah.
Like he loved that kid.
Absolutely.
So just going back to what Scott said, if he likes this guy rake straw that much, then I'm going to ride with Scott. I mean, and that's a position that I've been critical of since last season. That was, that was the sticking point before I would get in.
They had to listen. I'm so glad that you brought that up. They had to give it an overhaul. And I heard people, another cornerback. Is this the new tight end? Listen,
get as deep as possible.
Hey,
yes.
There are people that have listened to me for years and probably watching right now, okay? Not that long ago, really, not that long ago, people were mad at me when I said, okay, I know this whole defense wins championship thing. If you can't see that the NFL is going full on offense happy and pretty passing and let's protect the quarterback at all costs and almost punishing defenses, you're not paying attention. That's common knowledge now. You don't get people arguing that anymore. And so the premium is on, okay, what can our offense do to you? How can our quarterback and our passing game hurt you? And what can our defense do to your passing game? Whether it be creating coverage sacks, whether it be finding a way to get that pass rush after the quarterback and making his life miserable. That's the NFL today, man. So anything that goes along to helping out those 3 entities, I'm all for it. I have no problem with it, man.
Was there anything else that you wish they would have done?
I don't mind the fact that the undrafted free agents, you got a couple guys that might fit a role at wide receiver. I'm going to say it again, and I think wide receivers, I don't want to say a dime a dozen, okay? How about a quarter a dozen? Okay.
It's the easiest transition from college football to the NFL.
100%.
Out of every position.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And so I know people get hung up on names. Well, we got a couple names here. Okay. We got a couple guys. And so if you're going to add another guy, whether it be in the slot, we're talking about 4 or 5 guys. You know what I mean? Yes. Would I have liked for them to grab a wide receiver? Yes. Would I like for them to grab an edge guy? Yes. But I think what he did later in the rounds, and I was talking about Milky Waters, of course, out of British Columbia. All these incredible variables. I'm not going to sit here and say I know anything about the guy, but here we go again. Do you trust Brad Holmes? And you answer that question yourself. I'm not going to flip and answer it for you, okay? Do you trust Brad Holmes? Because I'm going to repeat, if you don't trust Brad Holmes, that's not his fault. If he hasn't given himself some wiggle room and some leverage to say, hey, fellas, you got to trust me here. Our boys, our scouting staff really like this guy. We think that this guy could be something special down the line. If he hasn't earned that yet, I don't know what he has to do to earn that. So, to me, Blake, I don't mind doing that. That's what you pay a scouting staff for. And if you have faith and trust in your staff, then you go with it.
The only other thing I would have liked to see would be another edge.
Yep.
Like if I'm being like 100% hardcore critical.
100%. I agree.
But with the wide receivers too, like teams are going to release wide receivers towards the end of training camp. You can sign a pretty good number 3 for your team at the end of the preseason.
Blake,
that's how it works.
Blake, I can say this until I'm blue in the face, and we have been saying this for the last couple weeks, okay? You can say after day 1, people cry after day 1. And I'm like, I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a round 2. And there's also a round 3. And then guess what? On Saturday, you're not going to believe this. There's a round 4, 5, 6, and 7. But wait, there's more. Then you can sign undrafted guys. And then you can do exactly what Blake just said. The people that get themselves so wrapped up in this, it's like, I don't know, prisoner of the moment or something. Man, there's a lot of stuff that can happen between now and the time they hit the field. And oh, by the way, not to mention guys that are going to get cut come camp time that might not fit someplace else, but are going to fit here. It is amazing to me how every single year people can't get that through the noggin.
We're smart. I don't know what everyone else is, but we are.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Okay.
I have to ask you before we move on. What the hell is Atlanta doing? Okay. What was that? We haven't had a chance to talk about it.
All right.
But what are they doing?
No. So I'm with you. Okay. And by the way, give me credit. All right. JJ McCarthy was going top 10. Check. And Michael Penix was going to go earlier than anybody thought. Check. We knew that was happening. And I'm not exactly a rocket scientist for saying that. Okay. It's like, that's another thing. Haven't you learned? Okay. Let me say this. This is what I think. And you heard them use the Green Bay model. There is no way in Hades Kirk Cousins will be there in 2 years. That's my guess. That's my guess.
Okay, the Green Bay model works on a young QB. JJ McCarthy, young guy. Michael Penix is like 26 years old. He's old.
Whatever.
He's old for a guy coming out of college, though.
Agreed.
Like JJ McCarthy, I think, is 22 years old. Like, I know, but those 2 years matter.
This was Brett just brought something up, and this is for you rabbit hole people. Brett just brought this up. This was an explanation I heard from somebody that I know in Atlanta, without mentioning names. They may lose a pick next year for tampering. They need it this year as there were good quarterbacks here. That's what somebody in the Atlanta sports media told me, Blake, is they're worried about this tampering thing, and they're not sure that they could get their quote-unquote quarterback of the future next year or the year after. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you exactly what Brett just said. Somebody in the Atlanta media told me that.
I mean, that's fine, but then trade back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Vancouver won in overtime. Who scored? Do you guys mind? See, I'm telling you, this is why I practice what I preach. I can't watch games while I'm doing a broadcast. I can't.
Let me take a look for you.
Blake, I would have been done. I would have been like this the whole time. Like, honestly. All right, well, somebody tells me who scored for Vancouver.
Lindholm.
Okay, let me tell you about our friends at Wealth Advantage, if I may. The handsome brothers right there. Look at those guys.
The best.
Mike Husak, Jeff Husak. And if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northland, owned by two brothers, those guys, the handsome brothers, with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. The investment world is a complex one. And if you're ready to start taking your finances just a bit more seriously, it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to all my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. So thank you very much. And thank you to all the people in there that are chiming in saying Lindholm scored.
We
So
need like a nickname for our chat. Can we workshop that?
for the people in the chat?
Yeah, like, our fan base.
Many years ago, our great voice guy, Darren Braggy, called the Facebook people the Facebook monkeys. He would do a spot on Jim Leland imitation, and he called them the Facebook monkeys. And then he did it as Lou Holtz as well. And Facebook monkeys kind of caught on, and it was kind of funny. So that's the way that goes. All right. Any other draft thoughts you want to get to? Is there anything else? Because gosh damn, I have so much stuff. We could sit here for the next 3 hours tonight.
I mean, leaders and best.
Well, it's phenomenal.
I mean, most players drafted by a single team this year. I think Corum went to a great spot. He's going to be playing with Stafford. I'm excited to see that.
I root for the kid. I don't know how well he's going to be at the next level. I'm not going to lie. I've said that to you.
Yeah.
I've said it here. I don't know if it translates. I really, truly, I hope it does. And I'm not being PC. That is just a good kid.
But
he's that kid I root for.
If there's a spot for him to succeed, I think it's there.
Yeah.
They run the run scheme that they run is a great fit for him. I think he'll be coached really well. Everything. I'm super excited for that. And then the Steelers drafting Roman Wilson, like that's just a perfect spot.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Like,
yeah, it's funny. We did a bit years ago, like born to be a Raider, born to be a Steeler, et cetera, et cetera. I feel Ray said, why is it okay for NHL, NBA teams to stash players away till they are ready and get depth, but NFL people get bent out of shape? Cousins isn't a spring chicken, and two of the oldest quarterbacks both tore their Achilles. It's thinking outside of the box, I think. Like, honestly, if I can answer your question, it's not supposed to work that way. I think we're used to doing something, and this is a guy that's thinking outside of the box and trying to play chess. I think the question for me, Ray, to a lot of people, maybe isn't even so much taking the quarterback there. It's the who they took there. Does that make sense? Blake, I think maybe that's what you were getting at.
Yes, 100%. If they would have drafted, I mean, JJ was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand you have different options, but you're talking about a quarterback who has had 2 torn ACLs, is one of the oldest players in the entire draft, not just at quarterback, and you're drafting him to be a project.
All right.
It just that doesn't work with me.
I love what Todd said. I think most teams put the rookie quarterback in the deep too soon and expect him to save a floundering franchise. Couldn't agree with you more.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear people talking about how dangerous Chicago is going to be this year or how dangerous Minnesota is, if you're handing the reins to a rookie quarterback, okay, you're not going to have success. I'll take my chances. And if you want to be a wiseacre and say, well, what about this team or what about that team? Exceptions to a far greater rule. I told the story when Charlie Batch, when they handed the reins over to Charlie Batch, Okay. Effectively, that sent a message to the Lions that particular year that our year's over. It did. I mean, I was in the locker room. Guys told me that. You're going to have to take my word for it, okay? I mean, really, that sent the message to the veterans of that room. Okay, we're going to mail in this season. Let's think about next season. True story.
I will say though, I don't know if a rookie QB has ever been in as good of a position as Caleb is in.
He's in a really good position.
Like legitimately, the things that they put around him, and I mean, obviously, like they weren't that bad of a team last year. They acquired that pick from Carolina. That receiver room. I mean, they got Roma Dunte, the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion, this year. They have Keenan Allen, and they have DJ Moore. Like, that's a filthy group.
Yeah.
And they all can do different things. Like, I think that team is going to actually be offensively really good next year. I don't know about defense. But.
Yep. No, it's interesting to me because gosh, there was something. Adam said, I'm convinced Joey Blue Skies would have been a serviceable starter on most other teams. I, for the life of me, cannot understand. I mean, it wasn't going to work here. I said it early on. I got killed for it. That was the prototypical Detroit Lions mindset of trying to take a square peg and make it fit in a round hole. That it really was. I mean, his skill set and what they wanted him to do was absolutely disgusting. It really was. It was absolutely disgusting. It just wasn't. It wasn't a fit. It just wasn't. Somebody brought up Marino. Marino had a darn good rookie year. I think Dolphins, they won the division, I think, and then they went to the Super Bowl the next year in his second year. But like I said, the exceptions are few and far between. They just are. I mean, there's no other way to say that. They just are. If you want to be a serious competitor, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Sorry. I'll take my chances. I've got the law of averages on my side hefty there. That's the way that it is.
Is there any other teams that you really like what they did?
To be honest with you, I haven't studied it enough to go, oh, I kind of like what this team did or that team did. The Cardinals, I think are I was looking at what they're doing. I think the last couple of years, I almost think that there's competency there, as they were one of the most mismanaged franchises, I mean, ever. They really were. Them in Houston a little bit. We're just like, what are you doing? What are you going for? Anybody to you jump out?
The Bengals.
Well, of course.
I mean, this is not even like just a Joey B love thing, but they got a tackle to protect him.
Yeah.
Jermaine Burton in the third, like his talent wise, he's a high level guy, and especially there's talk that T. Higgins might get traded.
Yeah.
So draft, and then you got Eric Hall, Michigan legend.
Yeah. Tim said Joey didn't work in Atlanta either. He was shot. There's no doubt about it. He was shot. It probably Detroit took its toll on him. I think confidence took its toll on him. I do not agree with the revisionist history, though, of it was all the organization's fault. Joey was his worst enemy in ways that you can't even understand. He didn't make a real big effort to try to get to know his teammates. And towards the end in particular, I know for a fact, because I talked to them without mentioning any names, there were guys that said he was basically an island. You're the quarterback of the team. You're supposed to be the franchise quarterback of the team. And in essence, you didn't have any friends on the team. Well, that's a you problem. At that point in time, that's a you problem. I know our buddy, Ray said, being an NE fan, I love the May pick. I agree with what they said all weekend. Rookie quarterbacks will succeed if they build around the quarterback. I know our buddy Dave from Legacy.
He's
a big New England fan.
He hated that pick.
He did not.
I was trying to spin zone it for him. I think I did a pretty good job. I told him they now have a QB with less DUIs than Mac Jones, so you can spin it that way. He's got a rocket arm like Josh Allen. You just got to spin it as a fan. Even if you hate the pick, you have to make it sound good.
Bills didn't help themselves. Our buddy Mike, half of the Handsome brothers, Bills didn't help themselves enough. Weird trading back and missing out on a few better.
That was the other thing. That's not fair. Xavier Worthy with Patrick Mahomes is that I don't know if Xavier Worthy is going to be great. We saw John Ross with the Bengals a few years ago, but if that works out, he's faster than Tyreek Hill. That's not fair.
Not fair. It really is. It's video.
He's so good.
Can I get to this? And I don't want to make it, although there are a bunch of hockey guys out there, I don't want to make it specifically about him. But if I said to you in your lifetime, who's the greatest broadcaster that you know? The guy that just got your juices flowing, okay? I think, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but legitimately, the greatest play-by-play man, in my humble opinion, Bob Cole, passed away a couple days ago, and CBC did a fantastic job of honoring that man. He had the unique ability to call a game, but you felt like you were sitting on the couch with him and just being a fan with him. He had that unique ability of excitement and informative and a quick mind to paint the picture, adequately. Bob Cole's calls to my generation and a couple generations afterwards were the absolute best. And Blake, I have no problem, zero problem saying Sean Baligian's opinion, he's the greatest to call a game ever. And I don't use that lightly, okay? Because I loved Keith Jackson. Oh, Keith Jackson being a college football hunk. Bob Cole was the absolute best. And same thing. Somebody brought up Ernie Harwell. No disrespect to Ernie. Legend. And Hall of Fame human being, too. Bob Cole was it to me, man. And in the last few years, look, did he hang on too long? Absolutely he did. Absolutely he did. He wasn't the same. But man, I went down the Bob Cole rabbit hole the other day and I played some of his calls. I posted my favorite call, him calling Desjardins overtime winner in 93. There he is again. It's just such a great line. Just listening to some of those calls, absolute legend. So I wanted to ask you and everybody else out there, as a tip of the cap to, I think, the greatest to ever do it, Bob Cole. Who was the guy that, floated your boat, that, you could listen to that guy over anybody? Do you have one, Blake? Is there a guy that jumped out to you?
Yeah, it's Vern Lundquist. Uncle Vern. Like watching CBS college football and hearing Uncle Vern and just like some of the calls and just the emotion that he got in his voice. And I know people love him for his golf announcing from back in the day too. But for me, like, Uncle Vern was just great hearing him call games. The Cam Newton run against LSU and his just like, oh my. And it's one of my absolute favorite calls. Yeah. I love it so much.
No, for you guys out there as well. This is something I wanted to say before you can all make fun of me. I promise I'd tell a little fanboy story, and I will tell a fanboy story. Ray said Desjardins and Mario goal in 91 versus Minnesota was awesome to see it again. Oh, what a move. What a goal. Isn't that what Cole said? I think that's what he said. Oh, Mario, what a move. What a goal. I just because you're sitting there, you're feeling the same way. And he just had that ability to like be a fan. And, one of my buddies brought up to me yesterday, the cool thing about a guy like Bob Cole is when you listen to him, you felt like he was rooting for your team. Does that make sense? And I think that was that's the sign of a great broadcaster is you couldn't tell who he was rooting for. Every time he did a game, it sounded like he was a Wings fan. He was an Avs fan. He was, a Mario and Pens fan. He was a Habs fan, a Leaf fan, etc. And that was Man, he was the absolute best. Ted said, for me, it was Dan Kelly, but I'm biased because I grew up with Dan Kelly in the Blues. I was born in St. Louis, grew up in the St. Louis suburb. He was a legend. There's no doubt about that. No, Dan Kelly, long time St. Louis Blues announcer. Ray said Vern calling the kick six
That
for
one is
Auburn
so
and
good,
Alabama
too.
was awesome. That's crazy. That was like 11 years ago now. That's just,
And I think that was, I want to say that if it wasn't his last game for CBS college football, it was like the year before his last season. Like it was right towards the end.
Yeah. Tim said Keith Jackson MVP. His proud daddy is sitting next to me. Yeah, he was something else.
See, I just missed Keith Jackson. Like I was too young. And I've obviously gone back and like heard a bunch of his great calls, but for me it was on ABC it was Uncle Brent Musburger. And I liked him a lot too.
I did too. I always thought that Brent kind of got a bum rap calling games.
It's hard to follow up a legend.
Yeah, I always thought that he kind of got a bum rap calling games. Jason said, I'm a hockey guy, but Ernie was my childhood. Just can't be replaced. Ted said Bob Cole was the voice of Hockey Night in Canada. Adam said probably who people heard as a kid sticks with them, Dave Strader. Yeah, Dave was solid. Dave, no doubt about that. Dave was solid. I'm going way back in the older generation. Blake, you're going to have to look this one up. Danny Gallivan. At one point in time, CBC had Bob Cole and Danny Gallivan calling games. Now you think about that. And if you don't know who Danny Gallivan is, look up some of his calls. Cannonading blasts, Savardian spinorama. I mean, he had so many great lines. As a matter of fact, you know what? As fate would have it, we had, I think Todd pulled that vid up from 1979. And I told you off the top of my head, I can still hear it. Boston 4, Montreal 3, Lafleur skating rather gingerly out of his own end. Up to Lemaire, back to Lafleur. He scores. The way he gingerly cannonading, he dropped those words in there, and it made it pop. It just made it so much larger than life. You know what I mean? Phenomenal.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
Get Larry Robinson. That worked. Is that awesome?
But also, you know what's great about guys like that and why they're good? He let the moment breathe.
100%.
That's that.
Sometimes you got to shut your mouth.
And knowing when to.
100%.
Because there's a certain someone in college football that does not let the moment breathe whatsoever, and it drives me nuts. And some people love him.
And I think you and I have had this conversation.
And I don't need anyone yelling at me at 12 o'clock on a Saturday.
I am not in his fan club either. I'm just not. I'm not. You know what? I know he's not, he's not for me. He's not for you, but that doesn't mean that he isn't great,
He would be great at a night game, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly. The vibe is not for 12 o'clock on a Saturday.
All right.
Maserati Marv.
Now, could you do me a favor, Todd? Can you put that Desjardins call up there? Can you find that, Todd, behind the scenes? You could go to YouTube and just.
He's nodding his head. He's working.
Eric Desjardins overtime goal. Just the way Bob Cole described that was just, and that's the famous Marty McSorley game with the illegal stick, and the Habs threw a Hail Mary and they caught it. It was unbelievable.
Can we have Todd pull up the Cam Newton run against LSU after that?
Yeah, just we're gonna be here all night.
I know, but I really want to watch it now.
Ray said Bob Cole, Dick Irvin was the best combo. They were outstanding. I loved Ray. Believe it or not, I know I should say Dick Irvin because of that. I loved him with Harry Neal. I thought Bob and Harry were perfect together. Perfect. Absolutely perfect together. That was the beauty of it. But yeah, I mean, rest in peace, a legend, and everybody's got their own taste. I think a lot of times it goes with your personality. I think anybody that knows me, I'm an emotional guy. No. I want a guy who's giving me passion and giving me emotion because that's what I'm feeling at home. You know,
It
what
has
I
to
mean?
feel authentic.
Yes, absolutely. You can't face it. You can't fake it or anything like that.
No corny nicknames.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But that's the cool thing about it. Hey, listen, very quickly, let me tell you about our friends at Legacy. And I'm sorry to Dave. I know Dave didn't like the May pick real well, but you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy, right? To get help with their home and auto insurance. You can be one of them. Some of our listeners have done it. Why don't you do it as well? Two things. You'd be helping me because they help me. And seriously, I can't thank them enough. But most importantly, you would be helping you because our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents, and they provide a full service, one stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverages put in place to properly protect you, and yes, help save you money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. Enter our friends at Legacy Partners. You have nothing to lose, okay? Get your quote now. Save like some of our listeners already did. Give them a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Got your pen? Okay, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Ray brought up a guy who I think, when I was having this conversation the other day, Ray, thank you for bringing this up. I don't know how you feel about this guy. I think Sean McDonough just does a solid job. Like I think that Sean McDonough, like I'm not going to put him on the pedestal. I think Sean McDonough just does a good job. And no, I'm not going trouble with the snap on you. But even listening to him call hockey games, he's solid. He's solid. All right, can I play this, Todd? And anytime you want to play this, I might start jumping up and down if you.
Gretzky went after it. The Canadians trying to get it out. Carbonneau does. Two of them. Ronan coming up there. Brune carries in. Ronan in front of the net. Shot. Desjardins following the play, and he missed in the short side. Here he is again. Scores. Desjardins. And the Canadians win in overtime. His third goal of the game. And the series is a brand new one.
Is that? Seriously. There he is again. Scored. Oh.
Let the moment breathe, too.
My pants may have gone around my ankles. Just thought I'd point that out. Yes, you can come over and eat my meat. Yes, you could do that, too, if you want. Eric said, Sean, will Blake Corum be good for the Rams? We talked about that earlier. I think it's a good fit. I root for that kid. I do. I hope I'm wrong about him. I don't know if I don't know how good of an NFL player he's going to be.
He went to the best situation possible for him.
Indeed. All right, so we had a wonderful time at the alumni game last night. Hopefully you've seen some of the videos or pictures that were out. Seeing Vladdy out on the ice was unbelievable. And these sled teams are phenomenal. If you haven't seen sled hockey yet, it's so cool. It's so heartwarming. I had an opportunity to call a game at USA Hockey Arena a few years ago. It was so cool to see it last night at Fraser at Big Boy Arena. Was so stinking cool. It really was. And then the alumni game was awesome. Our boy D-Mac was on fire. He had a hat trick. He ended up the #1 star, Blake. For
Let's go.
Yeah. I got accused of hooking my friend up, which was nice, but he deserved it. So cool to see so many people out there, and I can't thank GH Pastor Foundation enough. I mean, the way they put together a fun day, and oh, by the way, it's for charity, is awesome. I mean, just absolutely awesome. But I have to ask you and everybody else out there a question, okay? Have you ever met somebody and you didn't quite know what to say and you kind of went fanboy on them? Have you ever had that moment, Blake, where you saw a guy and, I don't usually like to bother guys, right? Like, okay, so we had Chris Nyland on What the Puck, and it was awesome to talk to him. And I wasn't going to ask for a picture with Chris Nyland. He was a guy I watched growing up, but I'm not going to ask him for a picture. Hey, can I get a picture with you? And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody else out there. I don't, okay? But I wasn't going to do that, okay? It was nice to chat with him. It was nice to, cool guy. I mean, not only in the show, but seen him yesterday. But Blake, I'll go first. And I'll ask you guys, have you ever met a guy, and I always use the old Saturday Night Live bit of Chris Farley interviewing Paul McCartney. And if you haven't seen that bit, look it up. It's on YouTube. And like the whole time he's like nervous and he goes, remember when you were in the Beatles? Like, what kind of question is that, right? That was cool. Like, right? Think of something better to say, all right? So this happened yesterday. I'm not making this up, okay? And I'm giving you guys more ammo to make fun of me and laugh at me. And it was one of those things when I did it, I literally went, I cannot believe I just said that. I cannot. Like, I can't. So backstory. And I think I told you this before, Blake. So the spring of 1986, Montreal and Calgary are playing in the Stanley Cup. Because it's in Calgary, the games start later. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals goes into overtime. My dad comes down the hall, comes in a room, and he goes, you got to go to bed. And I'm like, why are you being like that? The game's going in overtime. Well, if you weren't such an idiot and you didn't get such bad grades, maybe you could stay up and watch the overtime game. I mean, look, he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. So I proceeded to do what I had done many, many times, in particular for Monday Night Football games a couple years earlier, because Blake, believe it or not, Monday Night Football games, when a lot of us were kids, started at 9. They started at 9. Yes. Yeah. So a lot of those games would be over 11:30, 11:45. So I said, okay, Dad, boy, you're right. You're the smartest guy. You're the best ever. I proceeded to shut my door, and then I had a blanket that I kept in my closet for such an emergency such as this. And I would put the blanket underneath the door. So my dad didn't know that I would turn the TV back on with no volume and watch the TV. Because the truth of the matter is, if you have the TV on illuminating the room, well, it's going to go underneath that little, door thing. And so the game goes to overtime, and it's a record that stands to this day. 9 seconds into overtime, Brian Screwlin takes a feed from Mike McPhee and scores. Well, I was so taken aback and such in shock that it ended like that, I yelped. And then as soon as I yelped, I went, oh shit. Because I knew. So I heard him walking down the hall, and I'm like, gosh damn it. Gosh damn it. And he opens up the door. I told you, get your ass to bed a half hour ago, blah, 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 blah. Now, a smart kid would have shut his mouth and apologized, right? We're talking about Sean. We're talking about Sean. So he goes, I think you forget what I do for a living. My father was a police officer, right? I should have shut up. I should have said, Dad, you're right. You're the best. There's no way I can put something over on you. Nope. Golden opportunity to be a smartass was there. I go, oh, you're the best, Inspector Clouseau. I've only been doing this for 3 years now.
Oh, no.
Well, not only did I get Mr. Backhand, and I went to sleep pretty quickly, he literally walked over the TV, I kid you not, picked up the TV, walked out of the room with it.
Yeah, you don't have a TV anymore.
That was my fun for a year. All I had to do was shut my mouth. All I had to do. But mouth can't do it. Mouth can't shut his mouth. He sees an opportunity to get a jab in. It's more important in that moment. It's more important in that moment to get your jab in, right? So anyway, fast forward to last night. We have this great event. We go to Cicerelli's place out in Shelby Township. And, you know, I had already talked to a few of the guys. And somebody said TMI. No, there was no TMI there, right?
I mean, I could see how you could deduct how you put the blanket under. You know, we could go there.
Oh, shit. You can't shut your minds out of the gutter. I was a kid. So listen. So I'm talking to some of the guys, you know, some of the guys I know for the Wings. Our boy, my Sergio Momesso and I are good buddies now, all that stuff. We're having some fun. And all of a sudden, right around the corner, as we're going to get some barbecue, here comes Brian Scrudlin. I was 15 in that moment. I was. It was that night in May of 1986. Brian Scrudlin comes walking up. Oh, yeah, to Dad. Thank you. You're right about that. In that moment, I was a 15-year-old kid again. So I'm going to let you guess. Can you what do you think I said to Brian Scrudlin? Think of like the most awkward thing you could say in that moment. I'm not going to put you on the spot. You know what I said?
That was the coolest goal ever. Is that what you said? Oh, no. The fact that I got that right.
Ray nailed it, though. Yeah, it's a combination of both what you said. I didn't have time. There was no buildup. He was just walking right by me, right? And I went, "Hey, Brian, I'll never forget 9 seconds." And he looks at me and he goes, "Neither will I." Screw that up. Come on, dude. Like, you're 53. You've interviewed like 10,000 people, and Brian Scrudlin turned you into a 15-year-old kid in front of a bar full of guys, loser. But I'm sorry. Blake, honest to God, I was 15 again.
Can I say this genuinely, though?
Uh-huh.
I think that what you went through is the most relatable thing. Like any guy. Like, if I were to meet Joe Burrow, I would turn into a pile of mush. I'd be 2019 LSU, I love football.
I'm not joking. No. I have interviewed so many people and had people on my dumb shows, television or radio, and it's Brian Scrudlin that literally made me weak in the knees. I think it's just because I wasn't prepared. It was like he came around a corner, and then all of a sudden he was right in front of me, and I just go, "Hey, Brian, I'll never forget 9 seconds." And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, me neither."
I'm going to be honest, though. Like, saying it that way. And the worst part is...
Now Joe Neville's never asking me back to do another one of those games. He's never asked
Mike's going to have to do them by himself.
Jeez, oh, Pete. Yeah, Mike, unfortunately, wasn't part of it. But
yeah, I know.
And you know,
how did Mike's son do? By the way?
He had a good weekend. Unfortunately, Team Michigan fell, but Sebi had a good weekend.
Good.
Now, the good news is I was able to save myself because I quickly gathered my thoughts and I said, "Hey, do you have a second? I have a funny story about that. I'm sure you've heard a lot of these." And I kind of told him that story, and he was roaring. And he goes, "Your old man was a cop," and I was like, "Yeah." So you know how well that went over. And so we had a laugh, and then I bought him a beer. So I had to.
Yeah,
I'll never forget.
I'd never forget.
I'll never forget 9 seconds. And you should have seen the look on his face. He's like, "Yeah, me neither."
Yeah, creep.
What? Yeah, right. That's exactly. Ray said, "Imagine if you met Eric Desjardins." I did actually. I did. I did not do the whole. You remember when you scored the hat trick goal in 51 seconds? That was unbelievable. It was just the timing of it, Blake. Like, he came around the corner, and I just go, "Brian Scrudlin, I'll never forget 9 seconds."
See, I haven't.
There's a 9-second joke there, too. For those of you that have their minds in the gutter, go ahead and giggle. Do what you need to do, okay?
I haven't had those, like, I've gotten a chance to talk to some really cool people on the phone. I haven't not had a chance to like meet very many people because of COVID. Like, because when I started in this business, everything was COVID. Now
Yeah.
everyone does everything on the phone or like on, over Zoom or whatever. So I haven't had many of those opportunities, unfortunately.
You are absolutely right. There was a time, especially, I'm not talking about the job where you and I were together, before they fired me. But when
Mhm.
I was at the sports station, it was amazing how many people used to come in the studio.
Yeah.
It was like I could sit here and bore you with there were guys sometimes that, especially a couple hockey guys that I knew that were like, "Hey, dude, we're gonna come into the studio today." Okay. I mean, like honestly, there are two guys. I mean, people might remember this. Two local guys were like driving by and they texted me and were like, "Hey, can we come in and see the studio?" I'm like, "Yeah, you want to come on and chat?" "Yeah, cool." And like we had James Wisniewski and Ryan Kessler on. It was Livonia guy, Canton guy, and I was like, "Yeah, come on in, and whatever, we'll have fun," And so yeah, there were even at the station that fired me, we used to have a lot of people come in, and just people don't come in anymore.
No.
They just
Even like a lot of shows like during this draft coverage, like there was people in town, but they would still not want to come to the station. And it was weird. I don't know.
Todd said, I spent many nights listening to Woods and Cal on my Walkman in bed when the Wings were played on the West Coast and I was supposed to be sleeping. Absolutely. Boy, wasn't that great?
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. Man, listening to that, keeping it underneath your pillow, Yeah, that was the only time I got busted, though. But I didn't get my TV back until, gosh, like 6 months later. I didn't get my TV
Wow.
back. Just in time for football season, though. I think my dad gave up on me. He was like, "All right, this guy's going to be a 2.0 student, so I may as well."
The chat's being mean about my Red Sox hat, by the way.
Why?
I don't know. They don't like it. First of all, it's a classic hat.
I love the logo. I do.
It's a great hat. And second of all, B, it's Blake. That's my name. It reminds me.
Remind, just in case I forget. Sometimes I look.
I forgot my name. It's Blake.
Yeah. Ray said, "Do you guys have that guy you met who gave you the opposite reaction? You wanted to give him the business because of play that beat you from your favorite team?" No. No. I Reggie Lemelin a little bit, and Ray, I know you'll remember Rajon Lemelin a little bit, but it was more in fun. But like anger or anything like that, nah, no. You play?
If I ever met CJ Stroud, I would give him the business. But I don't know if you've seen like clips of him like recently. He's getting cocky. Like he was doing something during the draft with Micah Parsons. And I was like, I just think he's delusional a little bit. He had one good year and he's getting a little.
Well, let's wait and see. It's he was an exception to a rule, man. I've seen. I mean, one of the greatest. Peyton Shep and I were talking about the other day. Peyton's rookie year was just debacle. Now a lot of that happened to be the garbage that was around him, but it's absolute debacle. I mean, I'll say it again. I'll take my chances that a rookie quarterback isn't going to excel in the NFL and lift his team to great heights. I'll take my chances. I feel pretty good about that. Again, there's always an exception to the rule, but I think part of the problem, at least in sports discussion today, is people trying to take the small and make it speak for the large. I feel really good about having the large speak much louder than the small. Jason said that's 9 seconds of Brian's life he'll never get back. Yeah, well, you know what?
Rick Pitino also had a famous 9 seconds. We can move on.
Yeah. We could keep doing that if you want. I mean, some people would say 9 seconds is an eternity. Okay, let's be honest. There are some people out there that would say that 9 seconds is an eternity. All right. So anything else that we need to get out there before we get out of here? I can't believe, dude, we did an hour already.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh Pete.
Time flies when you're having fun, man.
Nick Sean fired. I got to hit 5,000.
I'm sure you will. And no time
Nick,
at all.
Nick said, does Green Bay get over 775K next year for the draft? Off topic, I know. I don't know how that community is going to be able to support it. I just don't. And I know people up there, and I know some of my friends in the UP. They kind of said the same thing. It's a special place. There's no doubt about it. But for the talk of the infrastructure issues here, could you imagine 700,000 people converging on little old Green Bay, Wisconsin?
And they don't, and for them, like, the thing here was like how close teams, other NFL markets were to drive. And they'll have the same issue, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there will probably be a lot of people there, but I still don't think Detroit might have been like a one of one, like legitimately,
Oh, I
because
agree.
no one else
I
has done
agree.
it in a downtown setting like that, right in the heart of the city. We're going to look back on this event in 10 years, and it's going to be a very, very special moment for this city. I really believe that.
Absolute home run. I mean, it was. And I hope that it does lead to other things. I think that, again, I can't thank our friends at the Detroit Sports Commission and Visit Detroit enough for not only partnering with us, but forget that, what they did. The planning that went into this. And they aren't patting themselves on the back. They're thanking everybody else. But you guys, I mean, it took an army to get this done, but you guys planned it all out. It was absolutely phenomenal. No doubt about that. All right, before we get out of here, I have to tell you about our friend Lindsay Broadwell, because when it's time for you to buy a house, to sell a house, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. There she is, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and that everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyers, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Mike brought up a good point. The Lions Parade, I don't even want to know what the numbers are. Honestly, the Lions Parade, we've said it for years, and it will be the biggest party this city ever had. Even greater than when they drove the British out. And I mean, honestly, it'll be the greatest party the city ever had. Period. End of story. I will hear no debate. That will be the greatest party the city ever had. There will be people that will want to just come to Detroit, former Detroiters, just to be here. Jason said Green Bay is surrounded by farm fields, so plenty of open room for people as long as they help with the milking. Oh, boy. Todd said shut down the city and the suburbs. Greatest party ever. Mike, you're right. 2 million people, I wouldn't rule it out. You think I'm joking? No way. If they get 775,000 for the draft, what would a Lion all-day party be? I don't even want to think about it. Seriously. Oh, my gosh. It'd be the greatest. I don't even want to think about it. I've had that dream so many times in my life. It's just... So now I stopped thinking about it. Does that make sense at all? Like, I've thought about it so much. Now I just stopped thinking about it because now I've convinced myself I'm going to.
I had my thing. I'm good. I won a natty. I don't care. I could care less about literally anything else.
John said your neighbors from the South. Thanks for the week. Yeah. Windsor had their own parties. One of their own gets drafted. I know they had a party. They had a lot of draft parties as well. So that's the way it goes. All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, man. I'm happy we're. I feel like I haven't seen you since Thursday. I missed you. And I genuinely mean that. I love how often we get to chat.
Maybe we'll do it again tomorrow. You want to do it again tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll
don't have
see.
anything-
Let's
I don't
not
have
push
anything
it.
on tomorrow night. You know what? I'm calling Shep. Screw you. You're mean.
That's for the best.
All right. Listen, Todd, thank you. Blake, always a pleasure. Absolutely. All you guys out there, we might do another thing, like instead of like a full What the Puck thing, we might just do a watch party on Wednesday night. So you guys are invited if you want to come over. I think I'm going to do some ribs and some sausages and things like that. No, nothing extravagant like the last time. but
Probably
no.
won't taste very good.
All right. You know what? I'm going to keep all the ribs for myself. You know what I did, by the way, Friday? I did beef short ribs.
Why do you do those when I'm not coming over?
I have more.
All right.
All right, listen, we got to get out of here. Have yourself a fantastic time. Let's do it again tomorrow. As Skydog said, same bat time. Why don't we 8 o'clock? You want to do it tomorrow? Why don't we
I'm
just
in.
decide right now?
I'm in.
Awesome. Fantastic. We'll see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Have yourselves a fantastic Sunday night. Until tomorrow, I'm Sean Baligian saying I got fired from the radio station that Blake works for. Add one more, Losi. We'll see you tomorrow.
Off the Air with Sean Baligian, featuring Sean Baligian and Blake Majchrzak. Produced by Todd Losi and Blake Majchrzak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losi. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Play It Loud by Jam Studio. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the unsyndicated podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Off the Air with Sean Baligian on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.